All public, thank you, Lani. All public attendees are invited to participate in the meeting at the designated opportunities. If you would like to make a comment or ask a question, please use the Zoom hand. There's a hand there that you can raise your hands, or you can just raise your in-person hand. That works also. And you can just unmute yourself to do that. And also, if you want to ask a question, there is a ask question feature, or you can again raise your hands and we'll make that happen for you. And also we have new people, we might have guests coming. So I think everyone's done it so far, but if you haven't, please change your name to the name that you want people to call you by. That way it's easier for people to refer to you. And the way to do that, there are 3 bars. You see where there's mute? There are like 3 bars there. You can go there and then you can like rename yourself to the appropriate name that you want to have. Great, I think that's all for housekeeping. We'll have our icebreaker next. Lani is gonna share that. Share the screen. Thanks, Lani. Yeah, and Lani said for the BCCI and NAC reps, please share, please add that to your name. So again, you just go to that 3 bars there, and then you say rename. So I'm gonna rename myself. You just put chair, and then you say rename, and then you can see mine just changed. So if you're a NAC representative, Lani is asking for you to please do that. Are we all good? Do you know how to do that, or do you have any questions? Right, thanks guys. So for icebreaker, we're gonna ask, we're asking the team, of course, you all know the big thing we have coming up is the Voters Forum. Woohoo! We're really excited about that. We had a meeting a week ago, the team led by wonderful Erik. So he's gonna give you a brief on that later on. But we just wanted to use this as an icebreaker. What ideas do you have to help with the Voters Forum? And also, so whatever ideas you have here, just write it in a box. Lani is gonna collect everything. And also the other important part of this icebreaker is for you to tell us if you're able to help, you know, give flyers or to talk to the public in any of these locations. So also please add that to the chat so we know. So yeah, put your number or other suggestions in the chat box, please. If you want, number 1 is the BG food cart. Number 2, coffee shops. And we have some examples there. Number 3, downtown businesses. We have some examples there. Number 4, neighborhood near the, I can't see, near the what? Your faces are covering it. Lani, can you help me there? Neighborhood near the, oh, Risa. Okay, found it, got it. Oh, I can move your faces. Nice, okay, I'm learning. Number 5, farmers market. We need 3 people, 4 Saturdays, oh, need teams for 3 or 4 Saturdays. And then number 6, board and commission, NAC and NAC meetings, and number 7, other. So it looks like we're having suggestions coming in. Thank you, guys. Let's keep flowing. I'll just give 3-4 minutes for us to all type in our thoughts. And if you want to say something, please unmute yourself, and if you have something to add. Oh yeah, next door, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. So you mean everyone can post it in their own next doors? Because we all live in different neighborhoods, correct?
I'll just jump in and share one thing. I'm sure many of you have dealt with this, but I know that folks think they live in the city limits and they don't live in the city limits. So just remembering that while we want to promote the Voters Forum, there might be folks in May that are like, I didn't get a ballot, or I didn't see these names on the ballot. And so it's just this educational opportunity to realize, like, you might live in the city of Beaverton, you think, but you don't actually live in the city limits, if that makes sense.
Okay. Thanks, Councilor. That's a really helpful tip. Okay. Go first, you can post on next door, Konnette. And there's something, get back to you. Great. Any more suggestions? Any more? One more minute. Lani, have you got everything? Are you noting down these things?
You know, I can't see the chat because I'm screen sharing. So, so I'm going to have to go go watch this.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Just want to make sure we don't want to miss anything out.
I know, definitely.
Great. Thank you. Electronic banners. Terry's asking.
Okay, electronic banners.
I was just wondering if the Reser has something like that. That might be kind of fun.
Oh,
I
that's
don't
I don't know, but I do know that we will be able to put an A-frame out in front of their beautiful site. So, so we'll be able to have a little bit of a presence there. But I can definitely check.
And I guess with the library, oh, sorry, someone's hands up. Oh, Deborah, thank you.
Along with that, I've been getting emails because I bought tickets to an event at Reser, but an email of upcoming events at Reser. So I don't know how that, I would assume that since that's the location of the voters forum, that would be included in the upcoming events at the Reser email that goes out.
Definitely. So we did ask to get put on that. So we should be on their next round of when they push out those events.
That's
So
good.
great. Yeah, because that will be very helpful.
Yeah, good call, Deborah. That's good. And also, if you do have free time later on and you think about a way you can help or you can come to these things, just please send me or Lani a text message. You have our numbers or an email, you know, because the more we can be in places, the more people know about this voters forum. Because now everyone knows it's going to be in person. I know there are, you know, we have the vaccine requirement and all of the other things, but it's just important for people to know that there is a voters forum, and then, you know, we can keep the momentum because it's not too far now. It's only a month away, right? So yeah, we need to be on it. And I know our team is on it for sure, the Voters Forum team led by Erik. So we just need the public to be aware of this as well. Great, okay, we're gonna move on. I think we've got enough, and please feel free to add more, as I said, and text Lani, me or Ellen if you have any more, if you can make any day. Thank you. Public participation, do we have any visitors online? It doesn't look like we do. Okay, looks like we're just all here. Great, and next we'll move on for Councillor Nadia Hasan to please present her council update, liaison update. Thank you, Councillor Hassan.
Yeah, hey everyone. Hope today was manageable. I know for me, kind of coming back into the office after some days off was a little nightmarish, but hanging in there. I grabbed a couple links of things I wanted to make sure I shared with you all. Where did they go? Here they are. This is the work session legislative update that we had about 3 weeks ago. And just for context, council has set priorities. We have a legislative person that acts as a lobbyist for us in Salem to ensure that a lot of our values, priorities, et cetera, are heard, and it allows us to help pass bills at the state legislature level. And the state legislature had a short session. It ended a couple weeks ago. And this agenda bill that I dropped in the chat just gives you a sense of like the bills that we supported, the bills that passed. It's really exciting because a couple things that we did this time, we included the DEI plan in our strategy for bills that we wanted to support. And I think we also really focused on the climate action plan as well. So we're starting to see more of our work at the city level and taking it to influence policymaking at the state level. So when we talk about policymaking for climate action or other things, if the state helps pass it, it helps us as well. And we can also do it in the city, but our city limits can sometimes be a little bit limiting, as I explained earlier when we talked about the voters forum. So that's that. I know I shared it already last time, but I'm just dropping it again. These were the council priorities and goals that we landed on. Those have been passed. They are kind of the plan for the next 2 years in terms of like the work that the city is going to do to help us meet our goals as a city council. That I think is the bulk of what I had. Yeah, I'm not like thinking of anything else right away. If you all don't know, I know for some of the newer people, Bureau, which is the Beaverton Urban Redevelopment Agency, the Bureau group meets the last Tuesday of every month. So tomorrow is our Bureau board meeting, where city council and community members serve to talk about Bureau, which is a specific district and area within central Beaverton where we make decisions. I think that's all. I'm feeling like I could be missing something. So I'm going to pause to see if anyone has any questions or comments, so I can make space for your comments and questions.
Right.
That was easy. Well, I will add one other thing. This is not a council update. This is a general update. Next week, for our friends who practice Islam or who observe Ramadan, is the start of Ramadan. So I happen to observe Ramadan. So some of your coworkers or friends might be fasting from sunrise to sunset. That is no drink, no food, no water. Not a big deal. We've been doing it for a long time, but just if you have colleagues or friends that participate, be really nice to them.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Councillor Hassan. That's really good. And again, if you remember anything, send it. You can send it to Lani. I'm sure she'll include it in when she's sending the notes. Thanks a lot. And we're gonna move to Cassera for the Cooper Mountain Community Plan Alternatives. You're welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I am Cassera Phipps. I'm a planner with the city, and I'm the project manager for the Cooper Mountain Community Plan. Can I get maybe a thumbs up, Lani or Bintu, if you can see my screen? Okay, we're ready to roll. All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be with you tonight. Wanted to start with a brief kind of history of this project for those of you who may not be familiar, and then we'll dive into the details. I'd love to get your input on a couple of key questions, and then also, please feel free to raise your hand or enter any questions that you have for me in the chat as well. All right, so a bit of history. As Councillor mentioned, we do have very odd boundaries as shown on this map. So the areas in yellow are official Beaverton city limits. The Cooper Mountain area is shown in the orange boundary, so really at the southwest corner of existing city limits. The city did a really high level concept plan for this area back in 2015. And then in 2018, this area was added to the region's urban growth boundary. And that was really in response to the city's request to bring this area inside so we can help expand our housing supply. We know that we're in a regional housing crisis, and increasing supply is one way that we can help. So the plan will provide for at least 3,760 new homes. And we're entering the final year of the project. Ultimately, we'll determine how to provide new neighborhoods and everything that comes along with them. So homes, commercial areas, roads, parks, trails, all the utilities that go underground. That's all part of this effort. We are using a racial equity framework for this project, so that not only impacts how we do engagement, but also our technical analyses. So thinking through, who bears the benefits and the burdens of some of the decisions around how this plan comes together. And part of that, analysis is understanding the outcomes. And so this slide shows the project goals. It helps us understand community and council priorities. I'm not going to read them verbatim, but the bold words kind of highlight some of the different topics that we're dealing with in this project. And ultimately, these goals help us, measure progress as the plan is adopted and then as it's implemented over time. So when this area is fully developed and we have residents living in here, we can say, okay, did we you know, how did we do, and kind of reassess and evaluate the city's plan. All right, so here's where we're at in the process. We're at the alternatives phase. We have developed 3 different alternatives. They show different ways that Cooper Mountain could grow. They're meant to show the trade-offs, because some of those project goals, you know, there's a bit of tension between things like transportation and maybe, you know, connecting natural resource areas. So this alternatives evaluation process is really intended to help us identify the features that people like the best, so we can try to piece those together in a preferred alternative. And it will very likely be a combination of the 3 alternatives that you see here in the following slides. So before we talk about the differences between the 3 alternatives, I wanted to point out a few of the common features. So these are things that are carried across all 3 of the alternatives. One is the McKernan Creek Greenway, shown on the image on the left. This is an idea to co-locate things like a trail, stormwater. It's a creek system, so we're talking about wildlife corridors. There may be roads adjacent to a piece of it. We know that there needs to be a sewer trunk line running through part of this area as well to help provide sewer service from one end of the area to the other. So as we did our analysis, we found, wow, all of these kind of public facilities and opportunities are generally located in the same area. So maybe we've got something here. Let's turn this into, you know, kind of an essential infrastructure corridor. And hopefully with this regional trail, it can really be a defining project and feature of this neighborhood. Each of the alternatives also has an affordable housing target of 10% of the total housing units would be regulated affordable housing. And then we need to provide middle housing. Some of the middle housing types are shown here on the right. And for anyone who's been involved in the Housing Options Project, that's looking to provide middle housing in existing city neighborhoods. The Cooper Mountain Community Plan will look at providing middle housing in our new neighborhoods. And then last, we plan to provide a robust bike and pedestrian network in all of the alternatives. How we get there may look a little different, but we do want to improve access for people who are walking or biking or using mobility devices. All right, so first up is, oh, Frosty, you have your hand up.
Yes, I want to be careful how I ask this question, but do you actually know what the price of all these housing options are? Because when I hear the term affordable housing, it's an enigma to me. It really is, because what's affordable to somebody may not be affordable to somebody else. And I've been hearing from people in my grandson. I have a grandson who's 23 years old that got married this last September, and he was struggling in school, but real quickly he's back on track. And he just got accepted to an apprenticeship for steam fitters and pipe fitters for his union. But he's having to move out of the Beaverton, Hillsborough area to find his quote unquote affordable housing. Mm-hmm. So what's affordable to my grandson will not be in that area, I'm guessing. But I really like to see some real numbers. And I think we heard last BCCI, or maybe it was our last NAC meeting, this same question kind of popped up, and it really kind of started me thinking, we don't really have numbers at these affordable housing. And unless you're going to subsidize, which means taxpayers are going to get hit again and again and again for getting people who can't afford to live in houses, well, what is that going to do? And how is that going to solve this affordable housing problem?
Yeah, and I think
and I don't mean that in a right wing or left wing, whatever. I want to see numbers, because otherwise the worst thing we can do is fool ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's affordability with a little a, and then there's the, you know,
The real life affordability. And
Well,
right now, $7 a gallon gasoline is not affordable to a number of people. And so are we, you know, we're talking about affordability housing. Everything that goes into that house is impacted by energy costs. And energy, having been a retired military person, energy is a national security issue. And what we might try to do affordable today may not be affordable in 6 months, seriously. So I think we're on the right track to get different, we call it different types of homes, not all single family. You'll get multiple family home areas integrated into that. So it isn't all just, you know, so I think the concept's right, but we really have to be realistic. And what are the prices going to be? Does that sound okay? You're not going to kick me out, are you?
No, I think that, new housing is more expensive than existing housing stock. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And then there's the, options, if not everyone has a large single detached home, that in comparison to a townhouse or in comparison to, perhaps a duplex, might be a more affordable. Again, I'm using kind of the little a affordable.
Yeah, just so you know, my grandson I was out at Hillsborough near the Intel area. It was a really nice area. They had a 600 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment and paying almost $2,000 a month. That was more than my monthly house payment in 1975.
Oh, I think I saw another hand up. Konnette?
Yeah, that was Konnette. Yeah.
Okay, I think I've said enough things. But we really have to be serious. You have to have numbers, not just names. You have to put definitions to it.
Thanks, Frosty. I think Konnette, you can unmute yourself. Let me ask. Hey,
yeah, I wanted to kind of tag on to some of the things Frosty was saying as far as what's actually accessible. I've been attending some of the HOP meetings, and things come up like a lot of these options are multi-level and maybe not as helpful to people looking to age in place. Not like you, I think you mentioned accessibility to public transportation isn't always optimum, and also to some of the issues with accommodating environmentally oriented designs. So for instance, when you don't have a garage, where do you put the plug for the electric car? So anyway, maybe at the end we can address some of those kinds of.
Well, who can afford an electric car at $80,000?
Oh, yeah, but I think we will eventually be able to.
Come on, be serious. That's a long ways away.
Well, actually, you mentioned a $7 a gallon gas fee. I think that you can envision a more affordable electronic car.
When you're making $17 an hour, come on.
No, really, Frosty, I think it's coming sooner than you think.
I beg to differ.
Okay.
Okay, I think we want Cassera to continue her presentation. Thank you for your contributions. So these are very valuable. Thanks a lot, Cassera. You can take over again. Thanks.
All right. So first is alternative A. We have the minimum of 3,760 homes. When we did a market study, we looked at the types of housing that the development community would be most likely to build. So if we allow all of the middle housing types, we'll still most likely end up with a majority of single detached homes, some townhomes, and then multifamily units. So alternative A results in the least housing variety. There's one commercial area in this alternative. It's shown in red on this map with the letter C. So at the intersection near 175th and Weir. We have very similar natural resource protection to what is in place today in city limits. And then this map also shows that there are 4 new what we call collector roads in the project area. Those are labeled as routes 1, 2, 3, 4. We're not very creative in that regard. And we have roughly 1 new neighborhood type park in each of the neighborhoods. So it does result in the lowest overall park acreage. Okay, moving on to alternative B, we have 5,000 total homes. Alternative B results in more housing variety. So we start to see more of the middle housing types in alternative B. We have a second commercial area. This one is shown toward the southwest corner, so the left side on this map. We also see a new color, a purple, show up on this map, and that is mixed use. So it could be, it's really flexible zoning. So it could be developed as commercial, it could be residential, maybe it's both integrated into the same building. The idea is that it would really allow these flexible zoned areas the ability to kind of shift with the market when this area does develop. This alternative does result in slightly higher natural resource protection. We see that there are still several new collector roads, but the big difference is that I'm going to use my laser pointer here. One of the creek crossings here is no longer a road, it's just the trail. So this would be a bike and pedestrian connection, but not for cars. And then we have same number of neighborhood parks in alternative B, but with slightly higher park acreage. That's mostly in response to really the higher number of people who would be living in this area under alternative B. And then alternative C, we go up to 6,000 total homes.
Before you move to alternative C, someone asked about alternative B. What does high resource protection mean on B?
Right, so we start to see more use of this cluster. I don't know, it doesn't really show up great on the map, but where you see the dashed line, there's slightly more areas with this cluster designation. And then we also assume that there's more policy and code provisions under alternative B that would enhance resource protection. And then the same goes for alternative C. And alternative C, we actually see even more application of this cluster neighborhood designation, which I actually will explain in greater detail in one of the later slides. Alternative C, so we have 6,000 homes. We do have a good mix of housing types. Part of the way we get to 6,000 is by having a higher proportion of multifamily units under alternative C. We have 2 commercial areas. This time, instead of it being kind of interior to the site, it's moved out to Tile Flat Road. And then we have a larger commercial center at 175th and Weir. The biggest difference in terms of roads here is that we do not have new vehicular crossings of the creeks. So where those collector roads were shown on the previous alternatives, they're now bike and ped only, including this crossing of McKernan Creek, this crossing, and then over here. In terms of park acreage, we assume that there would be a new community park in this area as well. Community parks are slightly larger. They tend to have features that may draw people from farther away. So maybe an athletic field or a skate park. This is something that we're really working closely with THPRD, in terms of park and trail planning. So it will probably come down to funding as well. So we will be doing some number crunching as we move forward. So speaking of trails and bike and pedestrian connections, I did want to show a couple different ways we can provide those facilities. The two images on the left show on-street facilities. So, you know, adjacent to where you have a vehicular travel lane, we have, you know, someone riding a bike, your typical sidewalk, we have a bit of separation, but we know that the cars are nearby. The two images on the right show off-street connections. So these are completely separated from roads. So it might be a multi-use path or trail. This is a pedestrian bridge. So you could picture something like this perhaps, and those creek crossings that are bike ped only. And those images are just kind of to help us foresee what could be built under alternatives B and C where those roads are bike and pedestrian only. So the yellow circles you see on this map are where we would see those off-street connections. So you can see we're really reliant on those in alternative C versus alternative A, we would have primarily on-street connections. And then B is kind of in between. All right, and then I don't want to overlook the roads because those do provide an important function. Route 1, which is west of 175th, provides an alternate north-south connection. So it does help to relieve traffic on 175th Avenue. Route 2 would provide provide a direct connection to all the neighborhoods east of 175th Avenue. It does divert some traffic, but really to a lesser extent. It doesn't help relieve traffic on 175th as much, and that's primarily because there's less development potential on this side of 175th. Route 3 is really common to all three of the alternatives, this east-west connection, with the main difference being that in alternative C, it does connect all the way out to Tile Flat Road. And then Route 4, which connects from South Cooper Mountain over to Grabhorn Road, does divert some traffic, but Grabhorn and Tile Flat really aren't expected to see the same high volumes that we are seeing and expecting on 175th. So there are some environmental impacts of a bridge crossing for cars. So that's something to keep in mind as well as we consider kind of our goals associated around natural resources. While there would still be impact of, from a bike and pedestrian bridge, it's probably to a lesser extent than a vehicular crossing. Kyle, I see your hand up.
Hey there, thank you. What sort of wildlife impact is there in consideration of these environmental outcomes, just knowing that this is in kind of forested area or area that used to be forested?
Yep. So we are planning for a bridge structure, so wildlife would be able to pass underneath. Installing a bridge, does have to take out some of the trees that are there, and it's also noise impacts. So anytime you're kind of introducing humans and cars into habitat areas, it can affect and scare off some of the wildlife that are there. So, and we have been working with some of the kind of natural resource experts in the region to really better understand what those impacts are, and even thoughtfully locating our trail connections so that we're not disturbing really highly sensitive habitat areas. All right, so that actually brings us to our first discussion question. And I think for time here, if you can enter your responses in the chat, which alternative or alternatives, you could pick more than one, do you think best balance connectivity, natural resource protection, and traffic volume on major roads such as 175th. All right, so it looks like got a little bit of each, but B, if I'm doing my quick math right, maybe maybe the most. All right. Well, there's a lot to consider. And you know, if you want to enter why, or you know, any other comments, please feel free to put them in there. I do want to have a couple more discussion questions. If it's okay, I want to keep moving on. Next question is about housing variety. So as I mentioned, alternative A ends up with predominantly single detached homes. That's shown in the purple here. We have 12% of units would be middle housing. These would most likely be townhomes. And then about a quarter of the units would be multifamily or apartments. Alternative B, we have a fairly even split between these three different housing types. We would start to see, again, more of those maybe plexes and cottage clusters under alternative B. And then finally in alternative C, and again, then these are the number of units on the bottom, so we're going up. We end up with the fewest overall percentage of single detached homes. A majority would be multifamily or apartment. So I guess if you can, actually, I'm going to, I'm just going to type housing in the chat so I can keep track of which is which. So if you have suggestions or thoughts on which alternatives best provide, you know, both that range of housing options and choices. Steve, you have your hand up.
Yeah, this really goes back to Frosty's question. You're asking a question of these alternatives, and I would like to know in each of these alternatives what the main price is you're talking about. I have no idea, just because I know what I would prefer to live in. That has nothing to do with affordability. And you've got to have, I'll go with Frosty, you've got to have numbers that would say alternative A costs $700,000 and alternative B is what, 650? You know, without those numbers, it's really hard to answer this kind of question.
Yeah, and it's actually also tied up to the infrastructure, the road conversation too, because the fewer roads there will likely be fewer fees that are assessed on new development. And some of those fees can be spread out over the total number of units. So really it's all tied together. And the city, you know, if we're talking about regulated affordable housing, that's where we can, I think, start to put together some numbers where we're talking about, you know, a certain percentage of area median income. But that's something that we, I think, can develop as we start to put together our preferred alternative. But again, you know, there's a lot of overlap here with some of our infrastructure funding questions as well.
Which leads me to my other question, which was, you mentioned Grabhorn and Tile Flat Road not being a means of diverting more traffic. And I'm thinking that's the very edge of this development. It's where you go north to south if you're in Aloha or coming in from Hillsborough. Why would we not consider making that a much more traveled road to alleviate traffic as we build up in this area?
Right, yeah, it will be. That was more, I think, the function of that collector road number 4, whether it was necessary or not. Compared to 175th Avenue, Grabhorn and Tile Flat are really not used to the same extent if we're thinking about kind of regional traffic flows. But I should say they will be brought up to safety standards. They aren't going to remain as they are today should this area develop.
Yeah, I think that's being a short-sighted, but thank you anyway.
Frosty, I see a hand up.
Yeah, also, I had no way of answering your previous questions about roads because alternate A is less dense, alternate B is more dense, and alternate C is even more dense. What does that mean to me? That means more people, more traffic. And if I've lived in this area since in the Beaverton area since 1975. The vast majority of traffic is east-west. If I, that's my observation, let's put it that way. Shoals Ferry is going to become a parking lot. And I've driven from Tualatin over to Hillsborough to visit my daughter and come back. But most of my travel in my life has been east-west. And so if you do go with alternate C, you're putting more people in that same property. Hence, there's going to be more people traveling east-west as well as north-south. So, unless you have numbers and dollars, we really can't answer that. And so I don't mean to be repeating myself, but you're looking at density here too between A, B, and C.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all for conservation. I think it's got to be an all hands on deck when it comes to energy. I'm a big Oregon State person, and I've been very, very involved. And there's a new company out of there called NuScale that's developing an amazing modular nuclear energy capabilities. And I don't understand why we're not looking at that. But right now, before we were talking about this meeting, people were talking about where they went for spring break. That 15-hour trip from Los Angeles back to Oregon, an electric car could probably 30 hours. Because I don't know of any electric car right now that's going to go much over 300 miles. And then how much time it's going to take to charge. So we only get 20% of our total energy right now from alternative sources. And that includes hydroelectric. So we've got to be very realistic. And I'm all for, but if you're not building roads, if you go to alternative C, people are going to be sitting, burning energy on the roads. And we don't have enough roads right now. But I would go along with what Steve said too. We need numbers. Thanks.
I'm going to move on to the next topic here, and that is natural resources. We did a natural resource inventory pretty early on in the project to understand what was on the ground, prior to any development. And so this map shows what are called the riparian areas, which are generally closer to the creeks and streams, shown in blue. And then we have the areas in green that are considered upland habitat. So they are a bit further away and are generally forested. So still important habitat. The area, I should just point out here, the area in this dark green is the Cooper Mountain Nature Park. So development is proposed there, but you can see that a lot of these creeks, we call them kind of fingers of the creek, do connect to and through the nature park. And so thinking about, how do we maintain this connectivity for wildlife? This is just an example of a bridge structure that has a wildlife undercrossing. We are thinking about the wildlife movement and connections between the creeks, as well as to areas that are outside of Cooper Mountain.
Excuse me, could you tell us what rivers those flow into? Is it the Tualatin mostly?
Tualatin, that's correct.
Okay, thanks. Because there's the Tualatin River Keepers, and they were raising cane when, and this was about 5, 6, 7 years ago, when Mountainside High School was being built, about the girls' softball field and all that other stuff. So it's going to be real important to know what rivers those flow into.
Yeah,
and what impact they have.
And they serve on our community advisory committee for the project. So
excellent. I just want to make
yeah.
sure. Yeah, thanks.
Yep. So, okay, as promised, I'm looping back to that cluster development concept. So there are the areas that are in our natural resource inventory, but there are also a lot of forested areas that are outside of the upland habitat areas that do still provide habitat, and there are a lot of existing mature trees. So one of the things that we're exploring through this project is, how do we encourage preservation of existing trees? Could we provide incentives, more flexibility by kind of clustering development on one portion of the site to then free up, the trees and open space on the other portion of the site? That might mean we end up with buildings closer to the street, or closer to one another, just providing some more flexibility to be able to work around the trees on site. So we have been looking into what other cities are doing in the area. We were at the Climate Action Task Force meeting last week to see if they had ideas. So just wanted to put it out there. If anyone has any suggestions or experience and how other communities are approaching this, that's something that we'd love to consider as we start eventually writing new code for Cooper Mountain. Okay. And last, I did want to put in a plug for our online open house. If anyone hasn't seen the announcement, it's available on the project webpage, which is beavertonoregon.gov/cm. If you have your phone handy, you should be able to, I think, scan the QR code on the slide. The online open house is available through April 4th. And then we also have a live event this Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Where we'll be talking about the alternatives and doing some small group discussions with our fellow community members. And if you do go to the project webpage, you can also sign up for updates. So you can kind of track where we're at moving forward. You'll know when we go to council next, or have any draft documents for review. Okay, so we'll be continuing engagement for the next few weeks. That's going to help us get ready for a conversation with City Council on April 19th, where we'll be asking for some direction on a preferred alternative. We do have community advisory committee meetings. They're open to the public. Our next one will be on May 26th. And then once we have really the, I think, rough framework of that preferred alternative, we'll be able to start putting some numbers together, because we do need to figure out, how much is infrastructure going to cost? What are the mechanisms that the city can use to help fund infrastructure in the area? And then we'll be developing our actual code language, policies, and zoning moving forward into the fall and winter. So, yep, okay, last slide. Here's my contact information. I wanted to thank you all for your time and for your comments tonight. I know it's a lot to get through, so I hope it didn't feel too rushed. Please feel free to email me or call me, if you have any other ideas. And I hope you stop by the open house.
Cassera, someone asked about transplanting, so I'll read that question. Is transplanting of trees a possibility, or are many of them too mature?
Oh, I think that might be a Herculean effort, perhaps, to transplant trees of that size. If you're talking about an individual site, it may be a possibility. We also actually have to think about some of the property owners have planted trees for commercial timber harvest. So some of the trees that are there today, you know, they do have rights to harvest for timber. So we have to make sure that we address that through our code to kind of treat those trees differently as well.
Right. Thanks a lot, Cassera. I think the open house is a good way. Like everyone here, if you want to hear more, please go to the open house, and the webpage is really useful. Lani did send it to me earlier and I kind of took a sneak peek. It's really informative. So it's in there. I saw that Ellen has put it there in the chat, and I'm sure Lani will send it again when she's sending the notes. So please, please, please do go there, check. I think our input is going to be very essential, you know, in these things. Send emails and ask more questions. I think this has been a really interesting discussion. Thank you so much, Cassera. Thanks for your time. We appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. We're going to move to consenting the agenda. Lani did receive some changes earlier on. I don't know if you guys had time to look at that, but just want to see if there is a motion to approve the minutes as written with the changes that were sent to Lani today.
I move to accept the minutes as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes as it's written and all the additions that were made today, can you please raise your hands? Right, thank you. And any abstentions? Anyone who's abstaining? No? Okay, great, thank you. The minutes have been approved. Thank you, team. And we're gonna move next to Lani for her city updates. I think it's a quick one. Thanks, Lani.
Yes, hi. So very quickly, just tomorrow is the State of the City. It's going to be at noon. The mayor is going to talk about some of the topics that include the Beaverton's ongoing response to COVID-19, the economic recovery, different program components, the downtown development, the ARPA funding, and addressing homelessness. And this is going to be featured online on the city's website and also on social media. So definitely we'll want to tune in. Again, it's tomorrow at noon. And I think then the next piece is just a couple of housekeeping items. Since we haven't done an event in person for a few years, I just wanted to make sure you all had the right gear for our big event in person on the 28th. It's tradition that we always wear BCCI t-shirts. And so if you don't have one, I want to make sure we get one ordered for you. And so by April 4th, I would like to hear from you if you'd like a long sleeve or a short sleeve and what size you'd like. And then we'll have those, I'll bring those shirts to the PRCA, and there's a changing room that you can change there, or you're welcome to come to City Hall prior to that. And I can give you the t-shirt in advance. But if you can, by April 4th, let me know what size you need and if you prefer a short sleeve or long sleeve. And then the other piece is we also have magnetic name badges that we've provided for all of you. And so I know the new board members, we mailed those out at the beginning of the year, but if for all of our folks that have been around for a few years, I know sometimes they get lost. If you need me to order you a new one, just let me know. And again, if you let me know by April 4th, that gives me enough time to have them here in time for the event. And then lastly, right before we segue to the subcommittee chairs reports, we want to really kind of finalize the rosters for each subcommittee. So if whatever subcommittee you're wanting to serve on, if you can let me know by April 4th, that would help me out. And if I haven't heard from you, I'm going to do a call down to just find out which subcommittee you want to be on. So it would just greatly help if you can just get back to me on those items, and that will just help us get these things moving along. And you're going to have some awesome new gear to have. And we've got some classics. We've got all different versions of the BCCI t-shirts for those of you that have been around for many years. So, so any questions or anything that you want me to elaborate on?
Lani, this is Caesar. I just want to say thank you so much. I received the name tag, the magnetic one, and the business card. You are amazing. You're always in the top following up, and I will send you an email about the size of the t-shirt. And thank you so much. I appreciate it, Lani.
You're so welcome. Thanks. And Terry.
Just wondering, this may come up as a question for folks. Can you serve on more than one committee?
Oh, great question. And the answer is yes, because those subcommittees do not overlap. So you can even be on all three for you overachievers. That some of you are in that category.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Right, any other questions before we move to the subcommittee updates? If none, then Sharon, you're the first event subcommittee.
Hi there, and I apologize for being late. The subcommittee, which is the events volunteer fair update. I had a meeting with Shannon Mason and Wilson Munoz, and they're a part of the events team, excuse me, for the city. Wilson just sent me the list of the previous 2019 participants in the volunteer fair. So we have a lot of people that we already can tap into, including, I guess, putting a call out for new people to consider participating. It will be at the library, and on June 11th, that's a Saturday. It's too early right now for me to just say, hey, I need you to come and be participant or volunteer in the front or roaming or whatever. We'll get that all straightened out as soon as we kind of come up with who the participants are and more of the down in the weeds things that we have to take care of first. So does anybody have any questions about the volunteer fair? I think historically, contextually, you know that this was something that Leadership Beaverton, it was a project and it came over to the city. The city's been doing it for years past, and we'll go back live again.
Right. Thanks, Sharon. Does anyone have any questions for Sharon? If not, Erik, take the floor.
Thank you. So as you all know, we have the Voters Forum coming up. It's going to be Thursday, April 28th. So that'll be the Thursday after our next BCCI meeting. It's going to be at the PRCA. It's going to be in person for the first time since 2019, which is very exciting for all of us. We've invited the candidates for all four of the races. Two of them are currently uncontested. The other two, there's going to be two contestants in each race. I believe we've heard back from Councillor Hartmeyer-Prigg, who is in one of the uncontested races. She will not be able to show up, but Lani, she's sending us a statement. Is that what's okay? And then hopefully everybody else will be able to attend. And we are also having someone from the city who will be talking about the bond measure for the Beaverton School District. So that won't be a debate or anything. That'll just be more informational, but a lot of good information. Our moderators are going to be our very own Bintu, along with Dory King. So we know that they're going to do a fantastic job. Oh, sorry, my mistake, Lani. Someone from the Beaverton School District will be presenting the Beaverton School District bond. I guess that makes a little more sense. So for people who want to attend, you do need to get tickets, and you can go on beavertonoregon.gov/votersforum to get tickets. So please share that out with your network. You will need to have either proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test to attend. So make sure everyone is aware of that. We don't want people to show up and not be able to enter the PRCA. And finally, an ask we have for all of you NAC and other board members, we do need questions. So some component of this will be questions from the audience, but we also want to make sure that we have a good list of questions on our own, just so we know that Bintu and Dory are going to have a lot of good stuff to ask the various candidates. In terms of the where the event will be showed, it's going to be on TVC TV. It will not actually be live this time. I think it's going to be delayed about a day just to work out any potential issues, but it will be able to be viewed very shortly after. I think that's all the information I have about it, but as Bintu said at the start, we do need help. We need some volunteers. So we have a range of potential tasks for people who are interested. Certainly the things that we discussed at the start of this meeting about canvassing, being in public places, handing out flyers, letting people know what the event is, when, where, all that stuff. Also, at the actual event itself, we've got a number of tasks. We need welcome table greeters. So people who are going to be greeting people at the door, handing out packets. We're going to need question runners. So during the event, we want people out in the crowd getting questions from the audience. Survey collectors. We are going to have surveys for the attendees, so we would need people to collect those surveys as everyone's leaving. We need timekeepers, so it looks like Terry and Sharon have graciously volunteered to take that over. And then we also will need help coordinating the candidates from the green room to the stage, make sure all the timing works out. So something to think about. If any of these sounds interesting to you, please let us know. Lani, what's the best way for them to email us?
Yeah, I'm thinking I'll send a recap out and then you can reply back to the email what duty sounds like a perfect fit for you.
Yeah.
Great. Frosty, question?
Yeah, this would be the first time I think we need tickets, and I probably understand why. What was the website for the tickets again, so I can let that?
I think Lani said in the chat that they haven't finished the URL, so we'll share that as soon as it's open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But once we do get them from the PRCA, the URL, it will be loaded onto our website. And so it's just going to be maybe one more day or two.
I don't think the ticket is for us, right, Erik? It's only for, because we were going to be having our t-shirts on, so the tickets won't be for you, Frosty. It'll just be for the public. Am I think
actually no, everyone will have to have a ticket.
Everyone. Okay.
Because they'll have to verify that you met the criteria.
Okay.
Yeah, you're vaxxed, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and I think Frosty, to your point, one of the differences, this is the first time it's not in like a city building, right? This is the PRCA is a private building, so they do have their own set of rules.
Yeah, just like the Blazers and other people. Yeah, sure.
Yep. Anybody else have any questions?
Oh, by the way, there's no charge for those tickets, is there?
No charge.
Yeah. Okay. So are we paying, just out of curiosity, are we paying rent for that, or is that part of the?
Right. Lani said no. Frosty, I think your hand's still up. Do you? Right? Oh, you were muted. Okay. You're muted. Do you have anything else to say? Okay.
No, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I know the mute unmute thing sometimes can be a pain. Great. Erik, do you have anything more to add?
That's it for me.
Great, thanks, Erik. Terry, Land Use Subcommittee.
Okay, thank you. I thought I would direct my comments to our new membership, just to give a little more broader background on the Land Use Subcommittee. And it was our Land Use Subcommittee was established as a subcommittee within BCCI in response to Goal 1 of the Oregon statewide land use planning goals, which encourages citizen involvement. And it was established and to assist NACs in their communications with the city. And examples of that communication include this evening's presentation by Cassera Phipps regarding the comprehensive plan that's being developed for a portion of our city down in Cooper Mountain. And occasionally there are text amendments to the code, and that's something that the Land Use Subcommittee informs members of BCCI that there are some pending changes to the code. And also helps develop information and improve information that has already been developed. And I'd like to point your attention to our land use handbook. Everybody has one of these as part of your BCCI materials. And this is a great guide. It's dated 2016, but it is still very relevant in helping you understand the land use process and how NACs can connect with that land use process when you have development in your neighborhood and you wish to communicate your thoughts about that development to either the developer in a neighborhood meeting or through notices and comment letters and testifying in front of any boards or councils. So we're helping the land use subcommittee is our goal is to help you in all of those endeavors. And in the 2022-2023 era, we have a new goal to collaborate with our community development department to develop web-based tools to help educate folks about land use and again, how to communicate with the city when you have a development in your area. And so we are going to be spending time then in the next year and a half developing these tools, again, in collaboration with the community development department. We actually have a planner who's going to help us with sit in our subcommittee meetings and help us develop some of these web-based tools. And basically there's going to be, we haven't actually had a meeting yet to launch this. So this is a really great time for any member who is interested in land use and how that affects neighborhoods. And I encourage you to join us in the land use subcommittee. Right now, I've heard from Deb Stewart and Konnette Etheredge. So welcome aboard, and anybody else who would like to join us. We meet typically once monthly at the same night as our BCCI meeting, generally at 5 o'clock that evening. So anyway, again, Lani's gonna have a list available for folks to add your name, and I encourage you to join us. Any questions?
Just got yourself a new member. Carl wants to join. I think you saw that.
Okay, got you down. All right, thank you very much.
Hey, Terry, I had a question about that. Are there any other parts of the community around land use that you think could be brought in for those discussions, or is that probably something that would be discussed once those subcommittee meetings start?
Give me an example of what you're thinking of.
I was thinking of younger people in our community, you know, in high school or other people who just might feel like they want to have a say in how Beaverton's thinking about those areas.
Well, we do have our MIAD member of BCCI. I guess I would, you know, this is a subcommittee of BCCI. So if you believe that there's a way we should be communicating with other folks in our community and Beaverton residents, I'm all ears, and I bet that's something that we could work on in this project that we're going to be taking on in the next year. I think it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor's Youth Advisory Board. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Terry. Ellen, do you have anything for matching grants? Super. Is there anything else before we move on to the actionable items? No? Okay. Ellen, my very unable person, please shoot us with all the action things.
Thank you, great leader. It's been a pleasure. I have 9 things. The first one is to promote the voters forum. We need more ideas, but feel free to mention to everyone you know and post on Nextdoor and things like that. And we're going to have a more specific plan for canvassing coming up. From City Council, we have a legislative update. Sorry, legislative update that went, the things they're going to work on in Salem. We have the new council priorities, and there is a Bureau City Council meeting tomorrow night if you'd like to attend. From Cassera Phipps, the Cooper Mountain Plan, the online open house goes through April 4th, and there is a virtual event on the 31st. If you have any more questions or comments, please get in touch with Cassera, and her information is in the chat. From Lani, we have the State of the City is tomorrow at noon, and some requirements for the Voters Forum. We're all going to be wearing shirts, so you can choose long sleeve or short sleeve, and please give your size to Lani by April 4th. Same thing if you need a name badge, and pick a subcommittee by April 4th as well, so we can have everyone assigned to one or more. We didn't hear from matching grants because we haven't had any recently, and that's mostly due to the pandemic. If you have any questions, though, feel free to shoot me an email or text. Sharon spoke about the volunteer fair, which is June 11th. So we're going to need, of course, lots of volunteers for that. And if you would like to be more involved with that, please let us know and we can get you in on the planning. Erik presented about the Voters Forum, which is April 28th. We need a lot of things. We need questions. You can send those to Lani. I always get my kid involved and have her think of the craziest questions to ask, and sometimes they actually use them, so they can come from everywhere. It's good to have variety. We also need volunteers, from canvassing and publicity to people at the events. We're all expected to be there. We're all going to be in our shirts. It's a really good time. It's going to be so nice to see everyone and be live in person, and the space is amazing. It's going to be a really good time. So for volunteering, you can respond to Lani's email that she's going to send out wrapping up this meeting, and say where you want to volunteer if you have any inclinations on what you want to do there. And Terry would love to have you on the land use committee. And I think that's it. Is there anything else anyone wants to say? Oh, it looks like Nadia has one more thing to mention.
Yes, so sorry. I had to do some cross-reference check on emails. It's my understanding that there might be a conversation on April 26th around the firework ban. I know that that's a very sensitive issue, and so I'm not gonna talk about it, except letting you all know that it is a tentatively scheduled meeting. I don't know if it's happening. This email is from a couple weeks ago, but it's possible it would be right before the next time we meet. So if you have thoughts and things that you want folks to hear, I don't know when I'll know when it's really in the agenda. We usually don't get the agenda till the Thursday or Friday before the meeting. And I'm a city councilor and I don't get it the Thursday, Friday before. So I just keep your eyes open. But if you have any opinions or thoughts that you want to share, I think it's important that you all know. I know that that was a really, really hot topic last year. And if you really have a question or thing you want to ask, I'm happy to make some time for it if folks would like. Oh, it's me.
Konnette.
Go ahead.
Yes. We are at Highlands thinking about hosting another shredding event. It would require, and we were thinking that we don't fill up a truck and that there might be others interested, other NACs interested in joining us. It would mean that you would need to supply some volunteers of your own and help with the matching grant. If you're interested, and could let me know, that would be terrific. I will put my email down here.
Thanks, Konnette. Sharon.
I just wanted to make a comment for those people who have not been to the Reser, you're in for a treat. It is the most exquisite new gem in this city. You know, I mean, it's a great way to come in and see the whole infrastructure there in a completely different manner. Doing the voters forum is going to be amazing. And Nadia, was that a pun about the hot topic about fireworks?
I didn't even think of that until you said it.
It's also pretty explosive, so potentially.
Steve. Oh, I think you're muted. We can't hear you.
Okay, there I am. Well, I'll go back to last month and say I still think we need to find a way to meet in person, and so I want us to keep pushing. So how's that coming, Lani?
Councillor, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I can jump in. So it appears, here's what I'm told. So, you know, because of the pandemic, the Oregon public meeting laws, there was some sort of like, it must start including a digital component in addition to in-person meetings. And so as meetings are being scheduled, we now must have the digital component in addition to in-person. That lift is not like a, okay, let's go. Even our in-person city council meetings have required quite a bit of staff to be able to have the technology and the AV setup to be able to accommodate both in-person and online. So boards and commissions are on the list to eventually be able to get the technology resources and support, but we don't know that we have the funding to get those resources and support. And because Chambers is being used for mostly city council meetings and other meetings and events, boards and commissions will make it. It just might not be. I was told July, if I'm being super honest. I'm hopeful that it can be faster, but I'd rather tell you what I'm being told than lead you to believe it'll be sooner rather than later.
Thanks a lot, Councillor Hassan. Sharon, your hand's still up. You want to say something? Ramona. You're still muted.
I think that the delay due to the technology aspects is a good thing in that the OHA is still keeping an eye on the latest variation of the Omicron, and they're saying it's even more contagious than the last one. So probably by July, we'll have a better sense too of whether or not we want to be mingling.
Thanks for that comment, Ramona. Right. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, that swiftly closes our meeting. It's been a pleasure being your chair. And as you know, I've always invited you all to stay behind for an informal chat. That way it can be like how we used to be in person, where we can just talk about things. But today I've actually got a structured topic to ask you guys about. So Lani's gonna stop the recording and you're all welcome to please stay to join us for the informal conversation. If you don't join, thank you so much for attending. It's been a pleasure and have a wonderful rest of the month of April.
Thank you, Bintu.